Girlfriend ambushed me with her desire for kids as I was moving in, making me question our future together. I'm a 28-year-old woman, and for the past 3 years, I've been with my girlfriend, who's 26. We've finally decided to move in together, a decision that was heavily influenced by the fact that both of us are just scraping by. I have a part-time job in this online business I'm desperately trying to grow, while she works at a preschool. Living expenses are no joke, so it made sense for me to move in with her since her rent is lower. From early on, we had those deep talks, what we want in life, dream vacations, careers, future plans, the kind of family we imagine. I was always crystal clear with her, I'm child-free, and have been pretty much forced into raising kids already, thanks to my upbringing. Parentification left me completely spent. I've already lived that life, helping to raise my 4 younger siblings when I was still just a child myself, exhausted, overwhelmed, robbed of a real childhood. There's nothing left in me for that, I told her, and she understood. Working at a preschool was more than enough kid exposure for her, she agreed. At least, that's what she said a year ago. So, there I am, moving boxes, sweating, hauling my life over in stages. It's late, and I get a text from her, "Can we talk about something important when you get in?" My mind immediately jumps to some issue with my mountain of boxes that I'd been shuffling back and forth all day. I lug myself into her bedroom and follow her inside, ready for another logistics chat. But then she sits me down, looks me straight in the eyes, and asks, "Have you ever thought about marrying me someday?" The question catches me off guard. Marriage is huge, I'm just getting comfortable with moving in. I've heard enough horror stories about couples who leap straight into marriage and then discover they can't stand each other once they live together. I tell her honestly, I love her, sure, and marriage isn't out of the question. But I want to experience living together first, really know what we're like together day in and day out. She nods and then drops the real reason behind her question. She's realized she wants kids after all. I just sit there, stunned. This is the same woman who complains nearly every day about being exhausted from wrangling a room full of preschoolers. The preschool she works at is near my current place, so she'd often stop by after work just to decompress, sometimes napping for hours before she could even think about dinner or heading home. I honestly thought the last thing she'd want was to go through that 24/7. So I ask her, what changed? She tells me it's those moments when the kids beam up at her, hand her a scribbled drawing or a beaded bracelet, or run up to her for help with their projects. It fills her with a happiness nothing else does. She even feels pangs of jealousy when the kids hand their bigger, more meaningful projects to their parents. She wants that too. She wants to be someone's mom, to build those memories, to come pick up our child from school, to have tiny versions of us for the future. I remind her, as gently as I can, that I'm still adamantly child-free. She asks, almost pleading, still? Don't you feel like we could be doing more with our lives? Wouldn't it be incredible to have a mini-me or a mini-you running around? The thought alone makes my stomach drop. I mean, no offense to parents out there, but imagining myself raising a child just knots me up inside. Exhaustion, stress, and the haunting memory of being a parent when I was only a child myself, all of it, flooding back. I never signed up for that again. We end up arguing, voices rising as frustration spills over. She accuses me of holding her back from motherhood, while I tell her we agreed on this. Being child-free was supposed to be a non-negotiable for both of us. I can't believe she's springing this on me just as I'm uprooting my whole life to move in. It feels unfair, almost like she's asking me to break my own boundaries for her happiness. We go around in circles, neither one of us willing or able to budge. Finally, she snaps, telling me to sleep on the couch. Something inside me snaps too. Instead of sleeping on the couch, I drive all the way back to my old place and spend the night alone, lying on a mattress on the floor surrounded by half-packed boxes, my thoughts churning. I have 2 weeks left before I'm supposed to finalize this move, and for the first time, I wonder if maybe I could call my landlord and ask to stay. After all, just back out of the move entirely. I know it sounds petty, but how can we go forward if we want fundamentally different things? If she pursues motherhood, and I try to force myself into it, resentment is inevitable. One of us, maybe both of us, will end up bitter and miserable. The truth is, I love her like crazy. I've imagined marrying her more times than I care to admit. But right now, I'm forcing myself to look at reality. She wants to share a life and a family with kids. I want her, and if anything, maybe a cat or a dog, but that's as far as I'll go. Right now, I'm sitting on this floor in my empty apartment, staring at the pile of boxes that represent a half-built future. A third of my stuff is already over at her place, but there's this massive, unspoken thing between us now. We need to have a real conversation about this, about everything. I have no idea what to do next, or how to fix something that I'm not sure can be fixed. Update 1. My girlfriend and I are both cis women, so there's never been a chance of me accidentally getting her pregnant. Whenever we discussed the idea of having kids, it was always just that, hypothetical. Sperm donor, adoption. Avenues we'd only ever travel together by choice, never by accident. Still, life would be simpler if I could move back in with my parents for a bit. Sadly, that's a non-starter. My parents are the type who think a woman's life is somehow hollow if she's child-free. The last big fight with them summed it up. They were begging for grandchildren since I'm the oldest, never considering that the relentless parentifying I endured growing up is the main reason I don't want kids at all. They even had the nerve to tell me the years I spent helping with my siblings should count as training to be a mother. It just made me ache, replaying all those days I spent building up their childhood, sacrificing my own. I dearly love my siblings, I'll do anything for them, but I've already done more than my share of parenting. Way too much of it. There's no way I'm going back. When my girlfriend, let's call her Sarah, started spinning her fantasy about us becoming parents, I already had concerns. But there was always that other possibility gnawing at the back of my mind, one that I hoped was just me being paranoid. Then, the morning after our argument, Sarah texted. She wanted me to come over and talk about our fight. I figured, maybe with some time to cool off, we could at least speak civilly. But I wasn't sure, so as a backup, I called my brothers, Tom, 24, and Jerry, 21, and asked them to be ready to help me, just in case. As rough as my childhood was, my siblings have always acknowledged that I was the one raising them while our parents took the credit. I've rarely needed help since then, but Tom and Jerry have always been quick to answer if I ask. They said they'd stay on standby with a moving van, and Tom agreed to help arrange a storage lot and put me up at his place if things went nuclear. Backup plan, check. I went over to Sarah's place and saw her looking puffy-eyed and red, immediately hugging and apologizing for getting upset. We started talking. She started pouring her heart out. But then the damn truth landed like a punch. I hate how right my worst fears were. She had found out she was pregnant a week ago. She'd been terrified, unsure what to do, but the idea of being a parent filled her with joy, and she wanted to share that joy with me. She started dreaming out loud, picturing us as a perfectly matched team with all my parent experience. I stared at her, but all my mind could scream was, she cheated. She cheated. She cheated. It felt like I'd swallowed gallons of seawater. Sarah was still talking, and suddenly she knelt in front of me, teary-eyed, smiling, and actually proposed. I couldn't take it anymore. Here was the woman I loved, but I was choking on betrayal. She wanted our happy ending built on this? I blurted, so, you cheated on me, got pregnant, and you expect me to just marry you and play happy family with this? The shock on her face was genuine. It made me want to flee, but I needed answers. When did she cheat? With whom? How had she even managed to get pregnant in such a short time? She wouldn't answer, just deflected, accusing me of being judgmental and slut-shaming her. She insisted she did this for us, that this pregnancy was a beautiful thing, that she was willing to carry out for us, like she'd done us some great favor. She even had the nerve to say that if I really loved her, I'd stay and raise our child together. I finally broke and locked myself in the bathroom. I texted Tom and Jerry to come up, and then I threw up while Sarah fussed outside, rattling the doorknob, crying for me to hear her out. Once I got the signal that my brothers had arrived, I left the bathroom to open the door. Sarah was now clinging to my sweater, sobbing and begging me to listen. Things just got even messier when Tom and Jerry started gathering my boxes. Sarah lashed out, throwing books at them, so I did my best to restrain her without hurting anyone. My brothers never faltered, they just kept passing the boxes down the hall while Sarah scratched and screamed, clawing my arms through my sleeves. It only stopped when she broke free, gave me a particularly nasty scratch, and locked herself in the bathroom, screaming and crying. Jerry warned me that she was just playing for sympathy, hoping I'd come in to comfort her, and that we needed to keep moving boxes as quickly as possible. Neighbors began peeking out to see what the ruckus was about. I found myself explaining between trips, desperately hoping no one would call the police. Either my neighbors bought my story, or, incredibly, the police never showed, so we got everything out and into the truck in about half an hour. God, I really hoped everyone else was wrong. That Sarah hadn't cheated, that I wasn't about to be baby-trapped by the one kind of person I never dreamed could do that to me. Yolk on my face, I kept thinking, because whoever expects this to happen when biology is on your side? At least Tom and Jerry were there. I genuinely don't know what I would have done if I'd tried to handle this alone. Tom even brought his dog for comfort cuddles, while we waited for my landlord to respond about whether I could stay or needed to move out immediately. For now, Jerry says I can crash at his place until the dust settles. So I guess I'm in an awkward limbo, packing and unpacking, everything on hold until I hear back from my landlord. My brothers have my back. All I know is, I'm never going to let myself get sucked into anyone's fantasy again, no matter how much they promise it's for us. Update 2. I honestly thought things were finally turning a corner for me. My now ex and I were supposed to move in together. From the very beginning, both of us had made it crystal clear that we were child-free, no discussions, no debates, just an agreement we both understood deeply. So you can imagine my shock when, right in the middle of me hauling my last boxes in, she sat me down and dropped the bomb that she wanted kids after all. I remember feeling like someone had just yanked the ground out from under me. It was obvious we were heading straight into breakup territory, so I packed up what I could and returned to my old apartment. That's when she asked to meet up again. I agreed, only to have her confess she was already pregnant. She expected me to be happy, to leap into her arms and rejoice at this surprise. But that wasn't my reaction at all. Things turned messy, and I was only able to get out, thanks to my brothers helping me move my stuff back home. She didn't take the consequences well at all. Every time I thought things might settle, life had a new telenovela plot twist in store. Just settling back in, my landlord called and cancelled my move out. The place was mine again, and suddenly, Jerry became a permanent fixture around the apartment. Sometimes, I'd wake up to find he'd stacked all my plushies on top of me, and you don't realize how many you have until you're buried under them. There were nights when the only thing I could do was uncurl on my mattress. I didn't even have the energy to put the bed frame together, and Jerry would just sit quietly and hold me while I cried. I kept thinking about how I used to comfort him through his first heartbreak, and now, there he was, somehow 2 feet taller than me, shuffling our roles so completely. He's honestly the kindest person I know. That doesn't mean I didn't feel guilty relying on him. Anytime it was time for work, anxiety would flare up in me, terrified Sarah might try to show up. Coming back to the apartment was the only time I could fully breathe. Tom didn't like how closed off we'd become. Whenever he visited, he'd mutter curses about Sarah under his breath, always on edge. Through all this, Jerry and Tom never stopped keeping an eye on Sarah's social media. She'd blocked their main accounts but forgot about an art account Jerry had. Jerry, always loyal to his never throw the first punch rule since grade school, watched for any false narratives, backing up all potential evidence. Then, just as I braced myself for some peace, she made her move, and it was every bit as wild as I feared. She went straight to our parents, spinning her own version of events. I walked in, Tom and Jerry at my sides for moral support, just as Sarah was putting on the show of her life, tears of joy, running to hug me, our parents practically bouncing in excitement. She had even brought a ring, a family heirloom she never wore, claiming we were engaged. Before I could even react, Tom and Jerry put themselves between us. Sarah played the role of the glowing, innocent fiancée, hands cradling her stomach, begging for the audience. Tom shoved me into the kitchen while Jerry whipped out his phone to document everything. I huddled in the corner, fighting off an anxiety attack, listening as Jerry started tearing into her story with the receipts he'd been collecting. Then Dad stormed into the kitchen and yanked up my sleeves, his face draining when he saw the scratches. He didn't even say a word, just turned on his heel and started shouting at Sarah. The next moments were a blur. Sarah barreled into the kitchen, Jerry and our parents on her heels, Tom flinging me deeper into the kitchen and screaming, "Stay the fuck away from her." As if he could shield me with sheer force of will. My mom exploded into the room, grabbed Sarah by the hair, and with Dad and Jerry's help, dragged her out of the house while she screamed for me to help, until the front door slammed shut and the sound of her car tearing down the driveway faded away. Even after all that, my mother started in on me for getting involved with Sarah, but Jerry and Dad finally snapped, yelling at her until she stomped off to her bedroom in a huff. The three of us slipped out while she pouted, none of us willing to wade into another argument. But the saga didn't end there. Jerry, always the vigilant one, kept an eye on Sarah's next move. Sure enough, she posted online about me running away from an agreed-upon pregnancy and leaving her alone as a single mother, even accusing my brothers of threatening her. Jerry was ready. He immediately replied to every comment with screenshots of her admitting to cheating, trying to baby trap me, photos of my injuries and destroyed sweater, and footage from the doorbell camera showing Sarah being kicked out of my parents' house, screaming at the door. He posted paragraph after paragraph detailing the truth and linked it all up, hammering the facts home before she could delete her post. People who knew us or knew our stance on children saw through her story, and Jerry made sure even the skeptics were confronted with the truth. I still can't get over how efficient and committed Jerry was with all this, even going so far as to dig for clues about the baby's real father and the night I suspected she cheated. Anyone need a guy in the chair? He absolutely fits the bill. It's been pure hell these past weeks, but at least I've had Jerry's online detective work and Tom's support. He's even started talking to a lawyer friend in case things get legally tangled. Jerry's turning it all into a meticulously organized file, like his next scrapbook project. For now, we're keeping an eye out, especially with our mother. She may not have been the most reliable parent growing up, but for scandal, gossip, or a show of physical defense, she can be counted on to keep an eye on Sarah and hopefully help us finally put this nightmare to rest. Update 3. I've been in such a dark place for the most part lately. It's almost surreal. I still manage to do my job and get all the household chores done, but it's like I'm watching my life through some fogged up window, my body just going through the motions while my mind drifts somewhere else entirely. I knew things were really getting bad when Jerry stood in front of me, and I had to really process that he was still here. I felt this crushing guilt that he had to see me like this, so distant, so lost. I could see his mouth moving, but his words sounded muffled and far away until finally I pulled myself back together enough to register what he was saying. We sat down and talked, and he gently suggested that maybe he could move in if it would help me feel more comfortable, to know he's not just temporarily here for me to lean on. That idea made me feel guilty at first, thinking it wasn't fair for him to feel stuck in a caretaker role, but he just brushed it off. He said he didn't mind, he just wanted to make sure I'm okay. After that, I made myself a promise. I was going to try even harder to be present, to focus and at least get some professional help, because obviously, what I was doing to cope wasn't working. And then there was the situation with Sarah. When her parents got involved, everything took a much stranger turn. One day I got a call from her mother. I was in such a low place, I didn't even answer, I just let it ring and ring, until she finally sent a text instead, saying she wanted to meet up to talk about everything that had happened. Every part of me wanted to ignore it, but Tom pointed out that it would be better to shut things down with her parents now, rather than risk them getting involved later, or worse, start harassing me if they believed Sarah's side of the story. Jerry had been trying to track down the father. No luck. Most of Sarah's friends weren't much help, even though they'd been out with her the night she cheated. All he managed to find out was, apparently Sarah was seen flirting with a guy none of them knew, then claimed she got an Uber home early. Her friends had only some texts from her confirming she got home safe, but nothing to identify the guy. After yet another dead end, I told Jerry to just stop trying. None of this was in our hands anymore. The meeting with her parents was ugly. I knew it was best to do something public, for safety, but considering how volatile everything already was, I couldn't bear the idea that a meltdown could end up filmed and splashed across social media. Tom found a restaurant with one of those private dining rooms, so we chose that. Neutral ground, private and contained. Her parents had insisted I come alone, but I was firm. If Tom and Jerry couldn't come with me, I wouldn't meet them at all. The dinner itself was painfully awkward. We all sat there pretending to read our menus, but everyone was on edge. Even the poor waiter seemed to know he just walked into a disaster. Then it all exploded. Sarah told her side. I told mine. Jerry pulled out his little folder of printouts. Honestly, that kid should have been a lawyer. And Tom, as usual, was damage control, trying to keep everyone calm. Sarah's mom went on and on about the sanctity of marriage and how I needed to be a supportive partner for my future wife and child. She kept using those words, future wife and child, even though I was never actually engaged to Sarah. I guess at that point, Jerry had heard enough. He shot up from his seat and, please excuse the language here, just yelled, "Oh my God, she doesn't even have a DSCK, it's not her baby." Total silence. I swear, it was like everyone in the nearby room was holding their breath. Sarah's parents looked stunned. I was mortified. Tom, honestly, looked equally horrified but also a little like he agreed. Jerry just kept going, explaining how the ring Sarah was wearing wasn't even from me, how I never had one, how I'm child-free, and, yeah, the whole not being a reproductive candidate aspect. After he'd exploded, Jerry just packed up his folder and stood behind Tom like he'd either put himself in a timeout or was just utterly drained. After that, nobody knew what to say. Sarah kept reaching for her parents, desperate to get some support, but they wouldn't even look at her. Her parents apologized to me, then stood up and left, telling Sarah if she wanted to come with them, she could, but if she stayed she was on her own. Sarah looked at me with those sad eyes, the ones that used to melt me, and left with her parents, head hanging. They were gone in a matter of minutes. That was 2 weeks ago, and now Sarah is back home with her parents in another city. Even though she's out of town, Jerry and I went ahead and got a doorbell camera. My landlord was fine with us installing it considering everything that had happened, and he even had my locks changed, no charge, and gave us those heavy screw-on window locks for extra security. I'm still waiting for a therapist to have an opening, but for now, my main focus is trying to pull myself out of this fog and get Jerry moved in. He's settling in, and Tom got a weekend off work to help with the haul and camp out on Jerry's new beanbag chair. One morning, I just had to ask Jerry again if he was really okay with all this. He said he was happy, his old place wasn't great, and here, now, it felt like home. My siblings really have a knack for making me cry over breakfast, but these were different tears, happy ones, for once. Sarah hasn't tried to contact me again. Some old friends reached out, those who took her side, despite the evidence, are out of my life now. I blocked them after gathering screenshots in case I ever needed them. The ones who saw the truth stayed by me, and they made it clear they've cut ties with anyone who tried to excuse Sarah's actions. It feels strange, even now, to call her crazy. She was the person I loved, the one I was excited to build a life with, and suddenly she's someone I barely recognize. I don't know what Sarah will do next. I know she left her job at the school, and her parents are apparently still trying to track down the father. But despite everything she put me through, the lies, the cheating, the manipulation, her attempt to baby trap me, I still hope she gets the help she needs. I can see her actions were selfish and damaging, but before all of this, I truly loved her. Whatever happens with her pregnancy, I hope she finds the support she needs before she takes another step. Update 4. The slot at the clinic opened up out of nowhere, and I took it, sitting across from a therapist and saying I don't want kids and I don't want her felt like dragging a rusted nail out of my throat. She didn't blink. We made a plan. When I walked home, the air felt different, like the world had turned the volume down half a notch. I actually heard myself breathe. Then the doorbell chime went off. 2 officers were on the stoop, polite, hands visible, faces arranged in that neutral cop face I never know how to read. Someone had filed a report that I was sending threats to a pregnant woman. They said her name, and I swear I felt my stomach try to climb out through my spine. Jerry was behind me so fast I could feel the warmth of him like a space heater. The officers asked if they could talk inside or if we preferred the landing. I kept it on the landing. The hallway smelled like someone's laundry and wet dog. They showed me printouts, paragraphs that looked like I'd typed them while possessed by a Shakespearean soap villain. Words I don't use. Phrases I'd never choose. The timestamps were messed up, 2 cities' time zones in the same thread, and one of the screenshots had my name saved wrong. Jerry had already pulled up my backups before I could find my voice. He handed over a neat little packet like we were in a school group project, my actual message history, the doorbell footage from the day she got dragged out of my parents' house, photos of my sweater and the scratches, plus the cease and desist draft Tom's lawyer friend had already been molding. The officers flipped, looked, nodded. They were careful with their words. They said they weren't here to arrest anyone, they were here to document and check in. I said the words "I'm scared of her," and I watched the way their posture changed. They left with copies and a promise to add their notes. The second the door shut, I slid down it and cried into my hands while Jerry hovered like an anxious hawk and then just slid down next to me and bumped our knees together until I could breathe again. Tom showed up half an hour later on a breakfast burrito and adrenaline schedule, and by sunset his lawyer friend had a temporary no-contact order filed with the court. It turns out preemptively trying to list me as her co-parent isn't just a bad idea, it's a legal kind of bad idea when there's documented non-consent and you aren't married. We signed things. We sent things. I slept with the packet on my nightstand like it was a stuffed bear. The next day, a message request slid into my inbox from a woman with a photo of a very organized pantry as her profile banner. She started with, "I'm so sorry to contact you like this," and my whole body went cold. She told me her name. She told me she was married. She told me her husband came home weeks ago and confessed to a mistake with a girl he met at a bar near the preschool. He told her it was a one-night thing, she'd said she was single, on the pill, the whole script I could recite in my sleep now. He blocked her when she said she was late. Then this week, she'd found a registry with my last name in bright cursive, and under parents Sarah had written both our names. She asked, very carefully, if I was involved, if I was going to try to be involved. If I had known. I could feel my cheeks burning even though no one could see me. I wrote back and told her the plain version. I didn't know, I was not involved, I did not consent, I would never have consented. I told her I was child-free, always, and that there was a no-contact order in process. She replied with screenshots I didn't know I'd needed to see. Sarah texting her husband weeks ago, "My girlfriend is on board. We're doing this together, you don't have to worry." My name crammed into a sentence meant to make someone feel like he could slip away. Seeing the lie typed out like that did something strange in my body. Anger, yes. But underneath it, this soft, grief-shaped thing. That version of me didn't even exist anywhere except inside Sarah's head. They'd decided to do a private paternity test first. The wife said she didn't know whether they'd stay married. She didn't ask me to take a side, and I didn't offer one. She only asked if I'd be willing to give a statement that I will not be acting as a parent to the child and that I wasn't a party to any agreement. Tom's lawyer friend turned that into something official looking in about 10 minutes, and I signed it faster than I've ever signed anything. He attached it to our file with the PIN code like it was a rare stamp. I thought that would be the end of it for at least a week. I was wrong. 2 days later, my phone buzzed with a notification from a cafe I used to love. "We're excited to host the shower for Sarah and my name." I forgot how to swallow. Some mutual I hadn't blocked had tagged me, not maliciously, just oblivious, and the RSVP was a parade of pastel emojis under a banner that used my name like frosting. I called the cafe. The manager had a voice like a tired kindergarten teacher. "If you send me documentation," she said, "we'll cancel, and if she shows up anyway, we'll handle it." I emailed the whole nightmare binder. They took the listing down within the hour. Later, I got a quiet message from the same manager. "She came in a week ago and told us you were surprising her by proposing at the shower. I'm so sorry." That night, Jerry dragged my bed frame pieces into the living room with the kind of focus most people reserve for bomb defusal. Tom brought a drill that sounded like a dentist's nightmare and a pizza too big for the table. I sat on the rug and, between questions from the therapist's homework, actually laughed at something dumb Tom said about how IKEA is basically a trust exercise with yourself. We built the bed. We tidied up. We did that thing where you set a little lamp on a stack of books and it suddenly looks like some place you live and not just some place you're hiding in. The no contact order came through. It's temporary, but it's real. My landlord slid the stamped paper back under my door like it weighed 100 pounds. I pinned a copy to the fridge with a fish magnet I found at the bottom of a box. The silence after that was so complete it felt like it had texture. The doorbell didn't ring. No unknown number spun my heart out. I took a shower without imagining a fist at the door. I slept without waking up 5 times. The woman from the pantry sent one more message. She'd told Sarah that she knew about me not being involved, and Sarah had responded by posting another soft focus ultrasound with a caption about choosing joy. It didn't tag me, didn't mention me by name, didn't allude to anyone at all. For the first time, her words didn't try to use my life like a prop. I put my phone face down and let that be whatever it was going to be. 2 mornings later, I went to the shelter with Jerry. We were only supposed to look, and we definitely did not come home with an 8-pound orange contraband loaf who immediately chose Jerry as his son. We named him Mango. He chirps instead of meowing and sleeps on my keyboard like a union rep. When I told my therapist about him, she said animals can be a bridge back to yourself when your brain has been trying to live very far away. I didn't say it out loud, but I thought, okay. Then I'll build a bridge. I don't know what's going to happen when that test comes back. I don't know what Sarah will do when the order gets served. I don't know what version of me is going to exist 6 months from now. But today, there's a cat asleep with his face in my palm, my brother yelling at a video game in the next room, a bed frame that doesn't squeak, and a copy of a document on my fridge that says I'm allowed to say no and be heard. That feels like a beginning. Update 5. The envelope with the court seal showed up like a brick in my mailbox. Temporary order granted, hearing date set, service scheduled. I pinned the second copy to the fridge under the fish magnet again and tried not to count the days like I was pushing beads on an abacus in my head. Mango decided the magnet was a toy and tried to steal the fish. We compromised. The magnet stayed, he got the envelope it came in. Service happened on a Tuesday. I know because the doorbell camera caught the process server's shoes, black, sensible, wet at the toes from the rain, and because an hour later, the camera caught a pastel gift bag swinging into frame and then the blur of a ponytail when she caught sight of the red light and bolted. The bag had a card on top with my name in her handwriting and a tiny stuffed giraffe inside. I watched the clip on mute with my therapist's voice in my head saying, "What do you want to do with this?" I wanted to light it on fire and also to mail it back to the stars. Instead, I took photos, called the non-emergency number, and then slid the bag into a trash bag and tied it shut like a cursed object in a horror movie. The officer who called back sounded tired but careful. Violation noted. Report made. If she forgets again, it stops being a conversation and starts being a consequence. I thought that would buy a few quiet days. It bought one. The next morning, I woke up to 3 missed calls from an unknown number and a voicemail from a nurse asking if I could confirm I was partner on file and whether I'd accompany Sarah to an appointment given her elevated stress. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the gray carpet until the sun found a slice of wall to warm. I called back. I told the nurse my name, and then I said, I am not her partner. I'm under a no-contact order. Please take me off any forms. She sounded immediately apologetic, like she'd stepped in something she couldn't see. She asked if I'd email a copy for their records. I did. She replied, got it. Removed. I'm sorry. I put my phone down and cried in the way that isn't loud or dramatic, just a leak you can't stop because some valve inside you gave up months ago and forgot how to close. Then the pantry woman texted, we got the results. There was no flourish. Just a PDF screenshot with that clinical, brutal 99% number and her husband's name. I expected a victory bell in my chest. What I got was the world steadying itself under my feet by a millimeter. She asked if she could forward my statement to her lawyer. I said yes. She sent back a thank you that looked like she'd typed it with her thumbs shaking. No update on her marriage. No gossip. Just 2 women in a text box keeping our sentences tidy so they don't spill all over the floor. It turns out, though, that when one door closes, someone will always try to crawl in through a vent. Jerry was the one who found the fundraiser. A grainy ultrasound and a caption about being abandoned by my fiancé with my last name tucked into the URL for credibility. The goal amount was strangely specific, like she'd done the math on a baby spreadsheet at 2 a.m. I didn't know whether to laugh or throw up. Jerry reported it. Tom's lawyer friend sent a very friendly, very terrifying letter. I wrote a blunt email to the platform with attachments. The page disappeared by dinner time. A refund notice pinged someone's inbox. My name felt a little cleaner. The hearing came faster than I thought it would. Courthouse air smells like lemon cleaner and old paper. Tom wore a suit he only brings out for weddings and traffic court. Jerry wore the same suit he wore to senior prom with a solemn tie that only wrinkled once Mango tried to sleep on it. My hands left sweat prints on the manila folder I carried like a shield. We sat on a wooden bench that had probably heard every possible version of, but that's not what happened. She showed. Pale, a little smaller. A maternity dress that would have been pretty at a shower. No lawyer. Her eyes found mine like she could still push her story into my head if she just aimed hard enough. I stared at the grain of the counsel table and counted the lines until the judge said my name. The judge's voice sounded like gravel in a coffee mug. He read the paperwork like he'd read 1,000 flavors of heartbreak before lunch. He asked me if what I'd written was true. I said yes. He asked if I had anything to add. I said, she keeps putting my name places and I need it to stop. It came out smaller than it sounded in my head, but it was the truest sentence I had. She tried to talk. She started with, Your Honor, she said, and then a whole river of words about love and promises, and our future wife and child spilled onto the floor. The judge held up his hand. Miss, he said, what you're describing is not consent to contact. He looked at the ultrasound she tried to hand him. He did not take it. He read the officer's notes about the gift bag and the doorbell footage. He nodded to the stamped copy of the nurse's email. He extended the order for a year. He included digital contact. He included third-party contact, including through friends, family, or social media posts naming or clearly alluding to the protected party. He looked directly at her and said, Do you understand? She said something like yes but smaller, and for a second I thought she might snap in two right there. On the way out, in the hallway that smelled like old raincoats, the pantry woman was there. She wasn't dressed like television sadness. She was just a person with a purse and a hand on a railing. Our eyes met, and we did not hug, and we did not cry on each other, and we did not make a movie moment. She just said, thank you, in a way that made it sound like we had both been holding a heavy door and could finally set it down. Then she turned and walked away, and someone else's life swallowed her up. We went to the diner down the block. Tom ordered pancakes with strawberries like a child athlete carb loading. Jerry ordered something with too much cheese and tried to teach Mango to sit over FaceTime. I ate toast and watched butter melt into a perfect square. When we got home, there was a copy of the order slid under the door like an omen. Mango pounced on the corner and then did that sideways hop cats do when they win a fight with paper. I laughed. It was an ugly, broken laugh. It was mine, and that felt like something. Small things have started to come back to me like tadpoles growing legs. I walked to the corner store alone and did not flinch when a stroller squeaked behind me. I answered an email from a client I'd been ignoring and did the work and hit send without rereading it 17 times. I set boundaries on my phone like it was a garden and I was finally tired of weeds. New email, new number, two-factor everything. Jerry perched at my shoulder like a tiny, smug IT crow. She hasn't knocked. The phone hasn't lit up with an unknown city. The cafe posted a picture of someone else's shower with cupcakes that looked like roses, and the caption didn't make me feel like I was going to fall out of my own body. The therapist asked me what I wanted to do with the space where fear used to sit, and I told her I have no idea, but I bought a small plant anyway. Mango tried to eat it. We compromised. It lives on the highest shelf. He chirps at it like he's giving a speech. Last night, right before I fell asleep, a message slid in from a number I didn't recognize. For a second, my skin went cold the way it does when you hear a noise in an empty house. It was from the cafe manager. She came in today, it said. We told her about the order. She nodded. She didn't argue. She bought a cookie and left. That was all. No dramatics. No scene. Just the smallest possible compliance. I lay there in the dark and realized that this quiet, this ordinary, was the craziest thing I could have hoped for when all of this started. I don't know if the quiet will last. I know the order has teeth now. I know I have a file folder that opens like a shield and brothers who show up with breakfast burritos and lawyers on speed dial and a cat who sleeps with his face in my palm because that's where my pulse is. The bridge back to myself isn't finished, but it has planks. Today, the planks held. Tomorrow I'll step on another.